How's it going, guys? My name is Zach with the Movie Castle, and today we're going to be talking about Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. This is from 2022. It just came out a little bit ago and is, I believe, the fifth film in Phase 4 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. This is directed by Sam Raimi and stars Benedict Cumberbatch and Elizabeth Olsen. But that right there, directed by Sam Raimi. I've been excited for this film for a while. I'm obviously a horror geek, and Sam Raimi is known among the horror community for making the Evil Dead trilogy, but he's also done a ton of work as a producer and had a bunch of really cool movies come out, so gotta love Sam Raimi. But as far as superheroes go, Sam Raimi made Darkman, a really good, underrated, darker superhero movie. If you haven't seen Darkman, go check it out. It's really cool. But because of Darkman, and that was a success, he was able to go on and direct the original Spider-Man trilogy. And the original Spider-Man trilogy was so influential in superhero movies getting to where they are today. So it was great to see Sam Raimi returning to superhero movies, but they also did let him keep his horror twist to it, which is really great as well. The basic brief synopsis for this movie: you get this girl, America Chavez, who has massive yet uncontrolled power. Primarily, she can hop between dimensions. Because of that power, an evil force is sending monsters after her, and she teams up with a Doctor Strange from a different world. And of course, things go poorly, and at the last moment, she opens up a portal and goes into the MCU, where this version of Doctor Strange, our main one, is going to try to succeed where the last one failed and help America out. Seeing as how the vague, mysterious force that's after them seems to be some sort of witchcraft, he goes to ask Wanda, aka Scarlet Witch, for some help so they can team up and defeat the evil force, and after that you get a cool chase through the multiverse. It's pretty fun. I did like this movie quite a bit. That being said, yeah, there are some definite faults with it, but for the most part, I thought this movie was pretty cool. The MCU has felt a little samey sometimes, you know, where you can kind of see the formula, and the biggest thing that I really liked about this movie was they let Sam Raimi put a horror element in here, you know. This is Doctor Strange, you're automatically dealing with some pretty cool, trippy, magical elements, and they did let him do a ton of crazy stuff in here, and the horror geek in me really did like that. There's a few points where you're like, wow, they managed to get that into a PG-13 movie. That's crazy. There is some pretty brutal deaths in this movie. Someone actually gets cut in half in a PG-13 movie, and yeah, there's some pretty cool stuff. Strange, of course, has dark wizard powers, and he'll do things, you know, like all of a sudden he'll shoot like snakes at someone, and you're like, okay, that's a pretty cool dark power. And of course, you've already seen in the trailer, there is a zombie version of Doctor Strange in this movie, and they do that thing where there's all the arms behind it. That was such a cool, crazy Sam Raimi visual. I really did love that. And without spoiling it, when the actual villain of this movie is revealed, it's a really great villain. Another thing that has been a major problem in the MCU since, like, really early on were the villains. The villains were either forgettable or clones of the heroes. And there's only been a few real standout villains over the course of over 20 movies. And this villain is big and powerful and threatening, and I really did like the character. I'd have to say that as far as villains go, this is the most powerful one since Thanos. And there is some really, really great scenes when you see the power encroaching, you know? As far as action goes, there's some pretty cool, wacky Sam Raimi action. But there's one scene towards the beginning where they're trying to defend a magical temple against this villain, and it becomes a really cool defend the base style story. Everything's going off, it goes crazy. And there is other things too, you know, like at the beginning of this movie, Doctor Strange has lost Rachel McAdams' character. She's going to marry someone else, and there's this wedding that, of course, is going to get interrupted by a giant monster, and the whole sequence really does feel Spider-Man 2, you know? He's at the wedding, it's kind of socially awkward, he doesn't really know what to do here, very Peter Parker, and then there's a fight in the street, and this big, crazy fight in New York really did feel like something that could have been in Spider-Man 2, but with Doctor Strange instead of Spider-Man. So yeah, some really cool Sam Raimi styled action in here. And I guess talking about the wedding, talk about the character of Doctor Strange himself. They do a good job defining him. Now, one thing I will say is I do wish we got a little bit more of a slice of life for Doctor Strange. Like, you look at Spider-Man No Way Home, and he shows up to see Doctor Strange, and he's, you know, the sanctum is accidentally flooded with snow, and there are just guys sweeping it up. I wish we got a little more of his life, because it does jump into the action really quick, but of course he is kind of at a low point, you know, having lost Rachel McAdams, and they'll ask him a few times, are you happy? Which is something, you know, you don't necessarily see too often in superhero movies, is how content is he? You know, he's a good, powerful wizard, but he's not feeling really happy. But then you deal with the multiverse, and seeing other versions of Strange really does help you nail down this one. Other versions of Strange aren't necessarily gonna be the best guys, and you get to see people judging this Strange for what other Stranges have done, and he'll have to do some morally questionable dark magic decisions sometimes, and it's like, you know, okay, I swear I am better than what you think I am. I know that other Strange made a mistake, but I'm literally going into a morally gray area, but you really have to trust me. And I really did like that line that it puts the character on. I thought it was pretty cool. With the other characters, Elizabeth Olsen, aka Scarlet Witch, she did a really good job here. Her character was one of those ones that when she was introduced in Avengers 2, I kept wanting to see her get her own movie, and it took a long time until we eventually got WandaVision. But she's a character that I really wish the MCU did a lot more with. But now that she gets into this movie, this is really her time to shine. They really show you how cool of a character she is. But that being said, with WandaVision, if you guys haven't seen WandaVision, they do explain it enough. You know, you can tell from this movie what has happened to her. But it's kind of right on the line where it definitely is better if you've seen WandaVision. If you haven't seen it, just make sure you're listening to what the characters say when she comes up so you know what's going on with her. But it's kind of right on the line where if they had done any more interconnectivity, it would almost be, you know, unwatchable if you haven't seen WandaVision. So they're kind of trying to straddle this line here where we want to incorporate everything much better, but we know not everyone's gonna have seen it. So yeah, it is kind of right on the line where if it was any more incorporation, you wouldn't know what's going on. So if you haven't seen WandaVision, just either look up a summary of it or just pay attention when characters talk to her, you know? The other big character, America Chavez, she's new to this movie, and it definitely does feel like an introduction. like they want to do something more with this character later, and I'm curious to see what they'll do with her. And as far as, you know, she's definitely one of those characters, the young child with immense power that we have to protect, and we've seen this character quite a bit, but she's not annoying. And that being said, a lot of these young child and action movies don't always turn out the best, and she's totally passable here. She does kind of, for a bit, turn into a MacGuffin, you know, gotta protect America and all that. So yeah, a little MacGuffin-y, but overall she's fine. And also, with the dimensions, there's a little less dimensions here than you might think. You know, it's the Multiverse of Madness, which is a really great title. You know, nods to Mountains of Madness from H.P. Lovecraft or Mouth of Madness from John Carpenter. A really cool title, but when you say Multiverse of Madness, I was expecting a whole ton of crazy stuff. The movie's primarily 3 alternate dimensions, well, counting the one they're from, and you do get to see little glimpses of other ones, but it's primarily the 3 dimensions, you know, and I was expecting a whole bunch more, which would have been wacky, would have been fun. At the same time, it would danger losing its focus, so I guess I get why they didn't do that. But yeah, don't expect a million dimensions. And also with cameos. There's some pretty big cameos in this movie. I do want to say, Bruce Campbell, they do give him a cameo, and I was really excited to see that. I was hoping he would be in here. I kind of thought he would be, and they do give him a brief yet really funny part. He's in there, and I won't spoil the rest, but there is some pretty crazy characters that pop up, and you're like, wow, they actually put that character in this movie, and a few alternate versions of characters we've seen before, and I, you know, really did like them, but then again, they're not in the movie as long as you might think, and it's like, wow, that's a pretty big reveal, it's amazing they put this character in there, but then they're not in the movie too terribly long. Like I said, it's interesting, but they do focus on Doctor Strange, so it's not going to be this hero that pops up later. It's not going to be their movie. They're not going to take too much away from Strange, you know, but you do get a few cool scenes with them. So yeah, like I said, I like the good horror elements with this movie. They pushed it farther than I thought Marvel might let them, and you do get some good characters with Strange and Wanda. I do wish we got a little more of their regular lives, but it's still pretty cool. You hit the ground running. There are some crazy things. The thing is, there are crazy things. There's not a million things. You know, and Doctor Strange's powers do lead to some cool elements. There is a few random moments where you're like, wait, Doctor Strange has the ability to do that? Like one scene later on, he sees a sheet music and he uses a spell to shoot the arrow, to shoot the notes off the sheet music, and they go to the other guy with a little, their sound, you know, the notes. And I'm like, that's a cool visual. Doctor Strange has the ability to do that, though? Okay, whatever. So yeah, there is a few flaws, you know, a few little pacing issues, and there may have been some studio interference. It probably was. But that being said, when you talk Sam Raimi and studio interference, this is a huge step up from Spider-Man 3, and overall, I thought it was pretty good, but if there is a hard R cut of this movie, like, you could tell that maybe Sam Raimi wanted to do stuff a little bit different, and if there is an alternate director's cut, I would love to see that when this movie comes out to home media, because I think there are a few moments when they held him back, and I do want to see the R-rated Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, the crazy unhinged Sam Raimi cut. I would love to see that. I don't know if it exists, but I think it would be pretty cool. But anyway, Doctor Strange, out of the newer wave of Marvel heroes, probably my favorite. And to get to see him with Sam Raimi there, that was just fun. So yeah, it's a little disorganized at times. It does hit the ground running a little too fast, but horror with one of the MCU's greatest villains, yeah, I definitely did like this movie, even if there are some flaws. Anyway, to everyone who's watched so far, thank you for watching. To everyone who's liked and subscribed, thank you. You really are helping the channel out. I'll leave a relevant playlist on the bottom. This should be my 2022 movies and TV playlist. If you guys like this movie, I have a review for Moon Knight in there as well. And if you like Sam Raimi, he produced a movie, Uma, that came out this year as well. So you can see my review for both of those things, as well as a ton of other stuff. Anyway, have a good day. I'll see you guys again very, very soon. 2022 playlist on the bottom. Have a good day now.